Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, whatever your time zone. Thanks to Duke Harrington for such a rousing and pulsating piece of music to get us started. Moving on, I'm your host, Baba J, founder and chief creative of the Creatives Everywhere Collective. Our mission is to promote, amplify, and elevate creatives of color around the globe. Thanks for being here. If you are an aspiring or burgeoning creative, we invite you to engage with us, especially our Create and Collaborate initiative. To find out more, scan the QR code you see on the screen using your smartphone camera. We have an exceptional program today. In the words of author-poet Abajani, to create art with all the passion in one's soul is to live art with all the beauty in one's heart. Creative Speaker Live draws people together as a creatives community. Today we have a great program. The order of our program is as follows. Our speaker will give a presentation which will be followed by a question and answer segment. Your questions are welcome via chat. Your questions will be delivered to the speaker by Trezor, our Creatives Everywhere staff. There will be closing comments, which will end the program. Now, to our guest. Our esteemed guest is Mayreen Hashmi. Mayreen is a celebrated and extremely gifted visual artist and curator from Pakistan. Her work has been exhibited internationally. One might describe her art as absorbing, aesthetically alluring, authentic, and appealing. She definitely has a heart for art. When one travels, Mayreen advocates, visit museums and galleries to embrace the culture and atmosphere. Mayreen Hashmi is an aspiring contemporary artist. We are honored to introduce you to this great artist and our new friend. Please welcome Mayreen Hashmi.
Okay, so hello everyone. My name is Mahreen Hashmi and I'm based in Karachi, Pakistan. So first of all, thank you so much for Creative Everywhere for having me on this platform and let me present you my work and my story. So about my work, I narrate my mental health struggles and my years of abuse and living in Pakistan, which is a very conservative society. So breaking stereotypes, all the struggles of being a woman and speaking up against sexual violence and telling the world that I'm also a survivor. That has caused me developmental trauma and it does narrate my social struggles as well as my mental health struggles. So if we see the work, every work has a story and every work, whatever happened to me, every painting and every video installation tells an incident. So Trezor, if you can play the first slide and we will start from there. Okay, so most of the time I call it art activism because it's speaking up towards you know trauma for a lot of sexual assault survivors, and I have connected and received a lot of emails and messages from the other sexual assault survivors also since I've been working on that. So the first one, next slide. Yeah, this one is in 2013 and the word says Mother Padar Azad. Urdu is my national language, it's my mother tongue, and Mother Padar Azad, it's kind of a it's kind of a slang or kind of a bad word to you say to hurt people. My father, who was very abusive towards me, he said this to me. It means that illegitimate child, that you have nobody for you. So when I was moving out in 2008, it was a big taboo here because we don't move out from our parents' house, even though men don't do that. And I was a girl, and my mother was a narcissist, and there was extreme abuse, and my brother was molesting me, and all of that was happening. So I called him out. I took a step and I went to the court, and I was doing thesis in art school. So this was the one thing that he said to me. So whenever, however, I was getting bullied by my teachers, other people as well, for making this decision of moving out. There was a lot of pressure as well. So I started painting that, whatever was said to me. So this was after graduation, and Madhur Padar Azad was one thing that was stuck in my mind. It was very hurtful. My work has been my catharsis. So that's how I painted this whole portrait, and this was exhibited in Australia later then. So I called this introduction because most of the time people ask me for, this was my introduction, that I have left my house, I have left my parents, and I'm doing this. I'm bringing shame to the family. I'm bringing shame to everyone. So that was in Pakistani society. That is very unacceptable. Now time has changed, but back then it was very difficult. Next slide, please. This one was an extension of that work. It says "वो लड़की जो अकेली रहती है" in Urdu, and it means that the girl who lives alone. So I was curating, I was exhibiting, I was struggling, but I was working hard, and I was trying to be an established artist, and exhibiting and selling my work, doing commission work. But this was my introduction. So instead of showing or appreciating my work, that's how people said about me behind my back or otherwise. So someone, a teacher from my art school, who had seen me going, moving out, and she was against my decision because she was, of course, from the same society. So she used to say that, okay, the girl who lives alone, the girl who lives alone, the girl who lives alone. So whenever things happen to us, like for example, divorce parents or anything else, so that becomes your introduction, and that triggered me that paint this piece, that why not look at the bright side, that how much that person is struggling and showing the world, or how much they're doing, instead of just pointing out their flaws and hurting them and saying these hurtful things. So that was kind of a sarcasm of a work, that whatever I was told, and I mean called, I painted that, and it became my catharsis. So that's another one. This is one of the series that I use text in my work, and I do use narrations in my work, which will come later. So next slide, please. This is she with herself. I have had several breakdowns, and because of my trauma, and there was no awareness of mental health facilities. Also, there was no concept of therapy back then. It was a big taboo here. Nobody understood that I didn't know what I was going through. I even tried to commit suicide in 2010 as well, and I didn't know what was happening and what's wrong with me, because everybody thought that I moved out and I should be happy. I don't live in that house. Nobody's hurting me or abusing me. But then I got raped also in 2010 in my apartment. So that also piled up on my trauma, and I tried to kill myself, and I was saved by some friends. So this was exactly my mental state at that time, when I was having severe panic attacks, and I was miserable. I could not stop crying. I was working also. I had to pay the bills. I was struggling as an artist. So this was one piece that I painted, and for a worst part was that I could not tell that what's happening with me, tell or explain to my friends or people who cared about me that time. So it was severe depression comes after trauma. So it was my survival mode with no professional or emotional help. So that was this is kind of a self-portrait, actually. It was me, like when you are crying and when you are covering your face, and you are having a panic attack, and that's how it feels. So this was exhibited in Europe, and I have this piece still. Next slide, please. This is another one, she with one of him. So I mean, as I said, I have a history of being sexually and physically abused. So the fly on every painting narrates, depicts the trauma and how it feels, the disgust of it, and when you can't speak up or when you can't say. Because when I was 4 years old, I was raped by my babysitter, and when I was 9, my elder brother molested me, and I was helpless. I was suppressed, and there was no outlet for me to speak up or say no to those people. And I was beaten also. I was physically abused. I paid for my education as well on my own. So there was everything worse possible could happened in that house. And flies are, they sit on the garbage, they sit on dirt, and that's how the trauma of sexual assault, regardless of physical and emotional assault, that's how it feels like. That, the tears and the suppression, and the ordeal of it, that you are in a lot of pain, but you cannot scream or shout. And even I as much as I have worked, I've seen in most of the societies, it's a big taboo that it's the person's fault. And you can't just say and go out that this happened to you. So this was the narration. It's one of the very early work I was exhibiting in Europe. These she series had been exhibited in Europe, in Netherlands, and different countries. So there's more paintings like that, but I chose this one most of the time because it really shows that what I was going through that time. I could not speak up to my friends also that this has happened, or this is what I'm going through. And otherwise also, living in social restrictions as well, I spoke up through my work. So people could see that what's happening, but people started talking about it since 2019, that I could open up about my story and say it out loud in words also, beside painting, that this has happened to me. And the psychological, emotional, and physical after effects of trauma and sexual assault, that's how it feels. That's how it's my narration of that pain. um Next slide, please. This is Smile Please. This is also a series, so I chose one of the piece from there, which is a self-portrait. I have painted different people also in this series. There are 5 of it. So what happened was that because there was a big taboo of me moving out, so I could not have friends that I could relate to. I was the only one who was going through this trouble of surviving alone and not having living with family, or not having a family at all, which is unusual here. Most of the time I was the only person living like that, or I didn't know what to say when people ask me these social questions. So this was when there was an incident that I received a message that my father died, and we hadn't spoken for 9 years. And I went to my friend back then, and I was sitting in front of her, not crying, not screaming, not smiling or anything. I was just very numb. And then she told me to be happy. She just said that, why don't you be happy? And I said, my father just died today. I can't do that. And she kept on going on and on, and she started playing music. She didn't hug me. She didn't ask me. And that pain, what I was going through, uh, hmm, I cannot explain how I painted this after that, that what I was going through, I could not explain. I could not tell her that what I'm going through. And I couldn't ask for a hug or ask for some condolence, as a decent offer. But that wasn't offered to me. So I painted these smile please, that because people who are from different backgrounds, so most of the time I have seen that their emotions and their grief or tragedy is not validated by people who are living in a functional family or having a regular life. So that's how, and I know a few other people as well. That's how I painted this, that what pain, no matter what pain you are going through, just smile please, that just be happy. Or somebody's dead and you have been asked to smile or be happy, you can't do that. You have to process those emotions. And I was bottled up for so many years, not explaining to my friends, or having everything on my own and imploding. So that was the visual narration of that feeling. So next slide please. this was another series after Smile Please. I started that. So I started this project, We Will Attend My Funeral, and I invited everybody who are domestic violence survivor or sexual and physical assault survivor. So I asked them to share their stories because people were emailing me since after I opened up about my story. So I was receiving emails from men and women, all of them. So they sent me few stories, and I chose some text from those stories, and I wrote in these kind of texts: in search of death, I found life, I survived because of me, these kind of things. So I do give to these, and these are the postcards of those paintings. I made these postcards, printed it, and then these are stamped on the back. So I had 100 postcards. It's like a years long interactive work. So I have 100 postcards, and I every year I choose few people. I announce it that if you're going through depression or having suicidal thoughts, or if you're healing traumas, and you can let me know, and I'll send it to them as a token of love and support that we are in the same boat. So this has been going on, and yeah, people do post, and then they have to post it again and then open up about their story. So we are coming together with mental health issues, and becoming a community here. So this has been going on. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Present. This shame on her. So this was for all the rape survivors who have to go through a lot of social questioning, that it's your fault, or what were you wearing, or why were you out in the dark, because there are so many countries who have highest ratio of rape. So this was, that human body, a female body is so beautiful and everything, but then his shame on her, that somebody is doing something bad to you, but then you are questioned because it's our body. It's, we are slut shamed for that. Also, we are questioned for that. I was asked, was it mutual, or did you enjoy it, or all of these things. So this was, I see a lot of aggression in this series of work, that it's not my fault. I had to work a lot on myself to understand that it's whatever has happened to me is not my fault, it was his fault. So it's whoever, the rapists, the pedophiles, and the predators, it's their fault. So then I painted these series. It's there are few pieces like that. It is shame on her. I have received a lot of criticism in Pakistan also for that. That why do you have to show this? Why are you showing nudes, and this is women, female body is beautiful and everything. So I enjoy reactions about my work. Yeah, that was my take on that. That this is beautiful, but then what are you doing with that? You are brutally raping her, abusing her, assaulting her. So that was my take, my narration of looking at rape. Next slide, please. This was another one, is shame on her. Same thing, rape survivors, that we are always questioning the women and slut shaming them and blaming the victim also. It happens in so many countries. I am part of different groups on Facebook for healing and trauma survivors. We talk to each other, we give support to each other. So this is what it is. His shame on her. I painted this in 2017. I'm working on this piece now these days, and I have it's an experimental work. Let's see how it goes. So yeah, next slide, please. This was Bleed and Flowers. There was a project in Netherlands by Hans Overveld. I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Is Hans Overveld. He has a gallery, Room to Caesar. So it was his project. He wanted to have a peaceful protest against Gaza, where children were getting shot for flying kites. So what he did, he sent us this kite paper to, I think, 15 to 20 different artists in different countries. And I was the one from Pakistan, and we painted on those kites, and we sent it back, and then he created kites with it, and they flew those kites at the beach in Vlasingen. And it was also exhibited this year in Beirut, and it will travel because it was supposed to travel, but it's not because of COVID. So in warfare, children and women get raped. So this was my one narration for that. So I talked about that, continuing with my work, and there were a lot of you know there was a lot of reaction from Israeli newspaper because it was against Israel, and there was this headline in a Dutch newspaper that Pakistani artist painted a vagina, and it's on the website, all the articles and everything. I'm reading more on that. So bleeding flower, it's the blood coming out after rape and how it is bleeding flowers because children are like flowers, and when they are raped, there are so many cases in news, in war, everywhere. There are so many war zones in this world also. So that's what's happening. That's one reality. Next slide, please. This one, when I died in my own apartment, in my own bedroom, in my own bed during the pandemic. So this is a very long video. It's 15, 20 minutes video or 2 minutes. So there is a link, you can watch it on my website. So what happened was in 2020, I got assaulted in my apartment again. Not raped this time, but I had to prevent that. And this person, Farooq Shahab, is a Pakistani artist, and I was his curator, and I was overly medicated because I collapsed because of his stress. I was doing this project computer. I started my own company and everything. I moved and I started a lot of things together, and only a couple of friends, and he knew that I was going through that. So he came over drunk and he did this. He assaulted me, and after that I lost my mind. I lost my sanity for a year because this was the fourth time I was getting sexually assaulted since I was a kid. And then COVID happened, then lockdown happened. It was hell for me, so I was not able to paint, and because I was mentally unstable, officially unstable, and I was just making these videos, recording myself, narrating what I was going through. However, I wanted to have my catharsis or share my pain. So this was part of that series, and it was exhibited in Yanjia, Biennale, China, and it was exhibited in Nepal. So yeah, there are a couple of videos like that, that how I, when I was healing through my nervous breakdown and recovering. So I just recorded that in terms of narration and my videos, just doing regular things with what was going on in my mind, just to show the world that how mental health, mental illness feels like, or trauma feels like in your head. Next slide, please. This is another one. It was the night when I had my breakdown, so I had a recording. I literally had to. I didn't have friends who would understand when I was going through that breakdown after the assault. Again, social taboos. So I talked to my few friends who knew that person, this person, Farooq Shahab, and of course, some wanted to help, some didn't. So it led to, and I was seeing a therapist also. Mental health professionals are not as professional, so that all of that led to my nervous breakdown, and I literally had to post on social media and tell people to save me from my third suicide attempt. It was not, it was not that I wanted to kill myself. It was my mind was playing tricks. I was uh, having extreme paranoia, extreme PTSD, and I didn't know what to do. I was just trying to save myself. So this is the recording I want to play. I think I can play that on the website. Do we have time to play that? Okay. Is it working or so this is actually recordings of all the artists have recorded few sounds, voices during the lockdown and the pandemic, and that was my recording. So I produced this work from that stories, and I extracted the audios, and I edited it, and that was my installation and my uh, ways of you know narrating the nervous breakdown.
We can share the link after the event so that everybody can have it on the
Okay,
chat.
okay, sure. Okay, so that's I think that's about it. Um, thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
So we'll jump to the question and answer section of the event. So if anybody has a question, please jump onto our chat and share your questions. But we had already collected some questions, so I can start with what we have. So hi, Mehreen. So the first question we have is, what does art mean to you?
For me, it's my everything, my lifestyle, my voice. It's my it's like breathing for me. That's how art is.
All right. So the second question we have is, what is your process for creating? Like, we've seen all your beautiful work, and I think people just want to understand what's your process when it comes to creating the artwork that you've done, the art that you've done so far.
My process is I journal a lot. I journal what's happening. I write my thoughts and all of that. So my thoughts, it's more mainly my process, and then I do sketch a lot, but I do live drawings and everything. I practice drawing, but most of the time when I have to paint, I just directly like to do it, resolve it on the canvas. Otherwise, in experimental work, I keep producing work, whatever comes to my mind, and then I select the work that I want to exhibit, and I just keep the work aside, which is not worth exhibiting. So that's how I go about it.
All right, thank you. So next question, what challenges have you encountered showcasing your work in Pakistan? I know you've mentioned a few here and there during your presentation, but what other challenges have you experienced?
I cannot exhibit my work in Pakistan. I have exhibited abroad, mostly in Europe, in London, Nepal, but not in Pakistan. Even though sadly, if I have to post it on my social media platforms, so I'm careful that I can post on Instagram, but not on Facebook. It's like that.
Okay, what's the reason for it, if you don't mind my asking?
It's we have different kind of society. We can see nudes, and there are certain galleries who do exhibit nudes, or there are artists who do that, but it's not out in the open. And then talking about sexual assault and rape, it's not that open here, so there are a few restrictions. Yeah.
All right. Next question. What is that one leadership lesson you would want to share with us?
One leadership lesson. I believe when you're moving forward, so you have to, take others with you also. Otherwise, you will be lonely and alone, and you won't have any foundation. So when you are going forward, teach others or give them space as well to come forward as well.
Right. So what inspires and motivates you the most?
People, their stories, their strengths,
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, lovely. That's quite inspiring. So what change do you want to bring in society by your art?
I want to have an awareness for mental health, trauma survivors specifically, and otherwise that my wish is to stop, sexual assaults in most of the countries. Our children should have a safe world and safe future.
Great. And last question that I have here, do you have any upcoming projects we should watch out for?
I have a show coming in Germany for my videos. Otherwise, I'm painting. And not recently, I did few projects. In the beginning of this year, I curated Wrong Biennale. But right now, I'm just focusing on painting. That's it.
Right. I'm seeing one more question is just coming through the chat. When is your favorite time of day to create? Prudence wants to know. Morning.
Yeah,
So what, like
yeah.
early morning or like
Yeah.
mid-morning?
Any both, because I do other things as well, so I make time for
Yes.
painting. Yeah, early morning is my favorite time because sun is rising and my studio has a big window, so you can see all the colors in the sunlight. And if
Yes.
not, if I miss the morning because of the work, then afternoon, but morning is my, and then you are fresh also. It's the start of your day.
All right. Okay. So thank you, Mehreen, for answering our questions. I think that's all the questions we have now. If anybody has any other questions, they can always put them on chat. Then maybe we can share with you later. So I'm handing back. I'm handing over back to our host, Mr. Mwata.
Thanks, Trezor. And thanks to our guest, Mehreen Hashmi. We are indeed grateful to you for sharing your incredible story. How awesome you turned creativity into a process for healing and an outlet for overcoming injustice. To our audience, thank you for being here today. We really appreciate that you took the time to be with us and listen to our presentation. Remember, creativity is the act of turning new and imaginative ideas into reality. Please join us for the next Creative Speak on the last Friday of the month at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Peace and love.